Yes.
Okay. Wow.
Hey. So I
Hi.
see a lot of people back there. I don't think I know anyone. So if actually everyone could just kind of introduce themselves or say hello.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
this is
So
Dawn.
who are you? You're Jico. Jico is who?
Me, I don't know. I lost
Oh,
track a while ago.
okay.
Um, well, yeah, so this is our friend Dawn who trained at Sogenji for a long time. And has it been like 20 years already that you're in Taiwan and going back and forth?
I think so. Yeah. Yeah. Something like that.
Yeah.
And maybe up the volume a bit.
Up the volume. Okay.
There we are.
So here we are. So yeah, maybe you can just say hi, say your name, and if you want to say like a sentence or two, or just the name, as you like.
Yeah, just a name. You guys have been sitting all day. You don't need to jump into backgrounds. But because Jico has spoken, I'm sure of all of you at different times. So I'm just kind of trying to put some faces to names.
Okay. Hi, Dawn. My name is
Hi.
Geert.
Okay.
Uh,
Okay. Are you the one that's thinking of going to Sogenji? Is that correct?
no,
That's the
No,
next.
no. Okay.
no,
Okay.
it's the one next to me.
Oh, that next to you. Okay. All
Yeah.
right. Okay.
Okay.
Nice to meet you. Yeah.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah.
I'm Martin.
Hi, Martin. Oh, you're the one that's going to go in Sogenji in December, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Good luck. Good luck. Sorry, I didn't mean it to come out like that. Good luck. There we
It's
go. That sounds a little better.
Hey,
Hi, Selwyn. Good to see you. And then,
I'm I'm
hi. Okay,
So,
great.
and then we have three more online.
Okay, we have this. I don't know who this Jan is. He keeps on kind of stalking me, so maybe.
You want to say hi, the online people? You can just unmute yourself and
Hi.
say
I
your
say
real
so.
name.
Not much more to say.
And then Sarah, hi. Nice. Sarah,
Hello.
are you also in Belgium as well?
Yes, I am, but I have now my training today, my yoga teacher training, so I couldn't join the
Oh,
silent
okay.
retreat day. So I'm,
Okay. All right. Well, you're here for this very unnecessary
yes,
talk.
they
So,
just put lunch for me at this time, so
oh, really?
it's
Wonderful.
perfect.
Wonderful. And then we have Tessa, is that the name?
What's up? Yeah.
Yes. And
Hello.
you're also in Belgium, is that correct?
I'm a Belgian woman living in France.
In France? Okay. Okay. All
Yeah.
right. All right. Well,
But I don't have plans to go to Sogenji.
you don't have plans to go to
No,
Sogen?
no.
No, no. Have you been to Hokozan before?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, so I was actually talking a little with Jico before about kind of what to talk about for this uh, hour, or hopefully it won't last an hour. And I believe we decided on like something along the lines of, why do a 1 day sit, basically. I think that's what it is. And then I went back and I realized that's not what we decided. That's what I ended up actually
But
uh
it's kind of the same thing. Like we meet for 1 day sits
yeah.
often, and
So
so
that's kind of because the question is, what's the point of getting together and sitting for a whole day, right? Or you can take it even farther, and what's the point of getting together and sitting for a week? Or what's the point of getting together and sitting for a year or two or three at Sogenji, right? So like where is that difference between just sitting down for 20 minutes and then perhaps sitting down for a whole day? Like, is there something that we can perhaps learn that we can't learn with such a kind of short time? So I kind of just want to talk about that just a little bit. At its very base, obviously sitting is a body practice. So like any body practice, as Sarah probably knows as a yoga teacher, is, the body needs to be trained a little bit. So sitting, in a way, the body is the vehicle through which we kind of develop awareness. So in a way, sitting can be seen at its very kind of, I wouldn't say lowest level, but a fundamental level. Sitting is a way of kind of, it's a body practice in a way. So to kind of learn how to sit, learn how to be comfortable in that position, to learn how to breathe in that position, basically, and to really find, how to put it, find a sense of home in that position, basically. And what's interesting about the sitting position is, I remember Roshi, he gave actually, I think it was a talk or a book, and he talked about how like these traditional Japanese, I don't know, like people who would put no actors or whatever, they found that if their audience was sitting, they had a much easier time connecting with what was going on stage compared to if they were standing or sitting in chairs. But they found if the audience was sitting on the ground, there was something about that act of sitting on the ground, of crossing the legs, that somehow keyed people into a certain different frequency that allowed them to really be more present, basically. So there really is, not talking about awareness or anything like that. There really is, I really think there is something to be said about just the sitting posture. And I know for myself, after leaving Sogenji, when I first really forced myself to sit every day by myself, at the beginning, it was just like, I'm just going to sit. I'm not going to force myself to do anything. I'm not going to force myself to focus, to breathe, to be good at this. I'm just going to sit. And somehow I found, just by getting on the cushion, assuming, you have something under your butt, so you allow your lower back to slowly extend. Just by being in that position, there was a sense of dropping into a deeper place within myself. It really didn't require anything on my part. It was just basically the body kind of naturally reacting to this position that we call zazen, right? And you don't have to be full lotus, you don't have to be half lotus, but you kind of have your 3 points, and then you have your lower back kind of slightly arched. And I really found that was really a gateway for me, where I didn't feel like I had to force myself to do it. I just felt like if I go there, the body will kind of naturally react. And so sitting itself is, I think, a very powerful practice. And you think about, we train in the Rinzai tradition, but in the Soto tradition, that's it, right? For them, the body, the sitting is the practice. It's already the manifestation of the Buddha's awakened state of mind. So you can kind of take that to really big extremes, right? But I think at the very fundamental is what I found in my practice is, if I just sit and don't expect anything, at the very least, somehow that's enough to get the engines going. So sitting itself has a very powerful effect. But the question is, well, why do it more? Why don't we just 20 minutes and that's enough? And that's kind of, we get to the second point, which is Roshi, sometimes confusingly, and he might actually say this in Sanzen, he's like, we're not doing Zazen to get better at Zazen, right? So you're like, what the hell? I'm trying really hard. I'm really, and it's like, it's not about getting better at Zazen. And what does that mean? Because that can seem really paradoxical in a way. And so there's 2 stories I kind of want to bring up, right? One is classical and one is someone I know in years past said so Genji, right? And the classical one is, I'm not sure if you've heard it. I mean, Sozen and Soen and Jiko have all heard it, but we had this very famous master, and his name is Baso. And then he was very good at sitting. He would just sit and sit and sit. And then finally, I think his soon-to-be teacher, Nansen, saw him just sitting there. And then so he basically took a tile, and started like rubbing it with a stone, and Baso was kind of, probably he was like irritated. What is this guy doing in front of me? Right. So he's like, what are you trying to do? And he's like, oh, I'm trying to make this into a mirror. And then Baso says, well, you're never going to make it into a mirror by scraping this tile with a stone. And he said, well, you're never going to become a Buddha by sitting zazen, right? So let's just put that aside for just a second, and we go to kind of a story that I have. So we had someone at Sogenji many years ago who decided that for him, Zazen was going to be about working the energy channels when he was on the cushion, right? So he would spend 30 minutes on the cushion or the whole evening on the cushion, and he would be like, I got to move the energy here, and I got to move the energy here. And then if I do this, then my Zazen is going to be more open and I'll have more energy and such. And so, not surprisingly, he would go into Sanzen and he would just get roasted by the Roshi. I mean, like Roshi was just furious. And he's like, well, what am I doing wrong? I'm sitting really good. Look at my posture. It's much better now. Like I have more energy. And so that's kind of another hint, like we're not sitting on the cushion to try to become better at Zazen, which is another way of saying we're not sitting there. We don't sit, whether it's for one period or for the whole day, to basically become better at the form of Zazen, right? I mean, the form is important to a certain point, but after that has to be let go of. So the question is then, well, if we're not doing Zazen to get better at Zazen, then what are we doing on the cushion, right? And there can be a lot of answers to this, and some of them, that's I think a very koan-like question, but it's basically we're trying to find this place of no self-conscious awareness, which is another way of saying is that we're able to become fully with whatever's happening to us right now. There isn't this division between us and the world, And so, and another way of looking at it is that we're trying to find a way to let go of all of those places and concepts and ideas that we traditionally associate with ourselves, right? And so those things are really deeply, deeply ingrained in who we are as human beings, right? It's how we function in society. It's how we usually function at our job. And so it takes some time and a place where we can kind of separate ourselves from those stimuli that bring up this sense of self, basically. So if we're sitting, like maybe we sit for 20 minutes and we find our body starts to sink, we start to find relaxation in our body, but we haven't created enough of a momentum that, or we haven't given ourselves enough space so that we can detach from the stimuli of this world that make us immediately reflect on ourselves. And one of the benefits of this week-long retreat, and especially in something as clean and pristine as you have there in Jiko's place, is that you're not constantly reminded of yourself in every step. While in the world, especially when we look at our phones, we're on the job, we're constantly reminded of ourselves. Ourself is reflected in the world. And we need to kind of figure out, we need time to slowly kind of let go of that. And this sounds very abstract, so I'll kind of try to make it a bit more concrete. So I've been coming and going to Sogenji for many, many years. And for many, many years, it has been very difficult for me to come and go to Sogenji because, had my life, I'm in Taiwan, had my life in Taiwan, I do my things, then suddenly I'm in Sogenji and I'm just like, what is going on, right? And it was really difficult. And what was the interesting thing for many years, the most difficult thing about coming to Sogenji was I would be surrounded. It was like I was surrounded by ghosts whenever I would arrive. And what I mean by that is every single thing that I saw, because I lived in Sogenji for 7 years, and everything that I saw seemed to kind of trigger a memory or an emotional reaction of something that was my past life. Somehow this had a connection to a past me, basically. So it was really like I felt like I was just surrounded by these memories of myself. And it made it almost impossible for me to really be present because everything was so emotionally charged that I was just basically reminded of myself, in everything I saw. And what's interesting about the self, and I've kind of talked about this with Jiko and Sozan before, is that the self really exists in the past and future. It exists in memories of what was and in worries or ideas or plans of what will be. But if we really start to shave it down to the absolute present moment, that's where there's less and less of us. So my point is that coming to Sogenji, having all these memories and everything, this was basically the opposite of what you want. It was, I saw myself in the past and everything that I was seeing. And on the opposite side is that sometimes I have to leave early, Sogenji. And so like maybe the sesshin is 7 days and I have to leave on day 6. And even now, like, day 6 comes around, like I still have a whole morning to sit. And, I'm like, all right, I keep it going. It's almost impossible not to start thinking about my flights, what I'm going to do. It's very subtle. It's not like super distracting thoughts, but there is already this veil kind of that has dropped down between me and the world because I'm no longer in the present. I have already kind of shifted a little bit. Part of my being has already shifted into the future tense. I'm already not fully here. There's a part of me that's already in the future thinking about something. And so what this one day sit or a week is so important is that it really takes the sense of time out of the equation, right? Like, especially when you're in the second, third, fourth day, there really is no longer a sense of where you came from and where you're going. There just is, what's going on, maybe the misery, but whatever, what's going on in that moment. And eventually, I think as the practice matures, the time to kind of drop into that more present moment becomes less and less. But the beginning, to have these long stretches, like a whole day, I guess you guys have been in it, where you don't have to think about what's next, where you can just drop what has been, it naturally leads you to, which is basically what we really want to be, is in the present moment. And so a lot of people think that Zazen is about not thinking, right? Like I got to make my mind clear. I got to be a robot and stuff like that. And it's not. Like thoughts are actually fine, but and maybe I'm kind of, you know, jumping too fast here, but it's not the thoughts themselves that has a problem. It's that we link them to our sense of self, basically. So it's because they create a sense of identity. These ideas, these concepts, they create a sense of identity, and this sense of identity then therefore pulls us out of this moment, this kind of internal moment. So that's kind of, we want to basically, in this whole day retreat you guys are doing, or like a week-long retreat, it allows us to slowly experience what it means to live without such an overwhelming sense of self-conscious awareness, without such an overwhelming sense of self that seems to kind of cover us, that seems to be this veil that separates us from living joyously in this moment. And that takes, time to slowly kind of let go of, because this sense of self-conscious awareness, it's how we've lived our life for most of our life, basically. We reflect ourselves in everything we see. We identify ourselves in everything we see. And so being in a place where suddenly there's just the floor in front of you, there's just the person in front of you, there's no stimulation, that allows that identification to kind of slowly drop away. And because that drops away, we return to what's important, which is the present moment, or another way it's saying is our practice, right? So every one person perhaps has a different practice. Some people work on, maybe mantras, some people work on koan, some people work on breath. But regardless, like if you think about, the breath is such a good practice because it's just being in that present moment, right? You're just with it, without ideas, without concepts, and you just kind of inhabit that space where you're not adding anything on to what's happening in that present moment. And again, that's something that slowly starts to emerge, and it needs time, right? And it's very fragile as well. And that's another reason we want to sit for longer periods of time, is this kind of connection, unfiltered connection that we develop with the world, with our breath, with whatever. It's very, very fragile at the beginning. And if we maybe develop it after a period or two, and suddenly, we have to drive home and someone, gets in our way or whatever, suddenly we're back, suddenly all that work we've developed is gone. And for many, many years, even at Sogenji, Roshi would be like, after the 7-day sesshin, I mean, I'm sure the Sogenji veterans here will know. I mean, it was almost ad nauseum how you would say it. Every sesshin afterwards, do not waste this mind that you developed over these 7 days. So and it's like, which means like, do not kind of go chasing shadows, go chasing yourself after you've developed this mind that is so free from the self, basically. So what's interesting is that our focus, because we say, okay, well, I'm not going to be dragged around by thoughts. I'm not going to start thinking about what happened, and I'm not going to start worrying about the future. We say, well, I'm going to replace that with my object of practice, whatever that happens to be. And so we do that. And at the beginning, it's a very, let's say, narrow it's very kind of confined, and it's still kind of this idea where we're focusing on something. And because we're focusing on something, it requires, how to put it, it requires energy and focus, and it can be actually very tiring, right? So this is where Roshi, he'll talk about, this is Susokan, basically. So we're counting the breaths. We're creating an object of concentration for us to hold on to instead of the mind going everywhere. So be there in that moment. So that creates an anchor. There's a saying, use fire to fight fire. So basically, we're using the thought of that one, of that two, to slowly kind of drive away everything else. But eventually, we get to the point where, and this isn't something that happens super quick, but we get to the point where Roshi calls this, he has a very different definition, but he calls this following the breath. And the following the breath is our awareness really becomes much more expansive. And suddenly we don't really need to be focused or doing anything. We're just kind of, we're just there as the breathing happens. Roshi sometimes describes this as the empty pipe, sometimes describes this as we're being breathed by the universe, basically, but we're kind of just there experiencing or being part of that moment, and we don't have to do much else. So in a way, the focus starts small, but as we sit for longer and longer periods of time, we find confidence in that object of focus. And we find confidence in that sense of being in the present moment. And more of ourselves basically engage with that present moment. Roshi said, I remember he had this saying for a while, he doesn't say it much anymore, but he says, if you could come here and just bring every part of you, every single part of you into this one moment, you would be done, but we don't. We have, we're here, but there's part of us that's still not completely in that moment. So as our practice progresses, we are able to bring more and more of ourselves into this present moment, because there's more, we're not being taken away by thoughts, and we're not reacting anymore. So that becomes something that slowly kind of develops, but it's not something that can happen right away. It happens faster as you get more experience, but it needs time for kind of everything, especially if you've had a lot of stuff going on or whatever. It takes a while for things to dissolve, and for the body to just suddenly, the body and mind to just fully be there present. And by being there for a whole morning or a whole day or a whole week, we're giving the body and ourselves time to slowly allow that awareness to grow, to become more and more of who we are, basically. And not to be, maybe at the beginning, it's something very kind of mental and very small, but as we kind of stay with it and just don't doubt the process, it becomes more and more engaged and bigger and more expansive. So the question is, how do we know we're kind of doing this right? Like, what does it feel like when we're kind of walking in that direction, basically? And there's tons, obviously, we all go through different feelings in the process and stuff like that. But my experience after many, many years of many, many failures is that you start to really become present in finer and finer ways, basically. And so, like maybe we get on the cushion, we focus, we're focused, we're aware. The bell rings. As soon as the bell rings and we get up to move, that focus is gone. We've already left, right? We've already kind of lost it. Okay, we get it. And then we're in kinhin and we get the focus going again. And then we go to the bathroom. As soon as we exit the line, it's gone again. So what happens is as that focus starts to deepen and as our connection kind of starts to grow, those gaps start to get smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. And again, that's why we do a session or we do a day-long retreat, is because it's so hard to eliminate those gaps in our awareness. But especially if you're out doing stuff, buying groceries, working, moving from point A to point B, but if we have a routine, if you don't have to think about anything, you hear the bells, you get up, you hear the clappers, you go down, you have to be at this place at this time, and that's it. So it has minimized any sort of sense of distraction. And in that way, it's much easier than to kind of hold that focus and to keep it going more and more and more. And then what it feels like, in my experience, and kind of recently when I've been at Sogenji, it's just like you suddenly realize how long 24 hours actually is, right? I mean, sometimes I'm amazed when I'm there and I'll be there or only one day and I'll have felt like it's already 2 years, right? Because suddenly you're just there for every part of the day. There aren't these blank spots. You're just there. And when you do that, you suddenly realize the day becomes endless. It really, really becomes endless. There's this sense of, and we all felt it, when we're really engaged in something, whatever we're doing, it's kind of time loses its meaning. It becomes while we're engaged, there's no sense of time. But if we look back, we see that day has become so full, basically. And I'm always amazed when I'm there and I realize how much time I tend to waste when I'm here back at home, right? Like it's, compared to when I'm there and I can really be there every single moment, and I realize how much we can still bring into every moment of our lives that I'm not doing, how much am I into every moment? Sometimes it's maybe 80 and a lot of times it's 20 or 0 or something. So that's kind of been my practice, is how can I be there as fully as possible at every moment of the day. And to have a place like a session or whether it's a week or a day is a wonderful, wonderful place to kind of slowly kind of work through that, right? And so basically, I don't want to talk forever, but if you really look at what we're trying to do at a session, it's, one is we're trying to kind of cultivate this ongoing seamless presence and awareness. And at the same time, we're also trying to drop this sense of self-conscious awareness that kind of sits between us and how we experience life. And they're pretty much, they're very complementary, and I think maybe they're even the same thing, but these are things that don't happen very quickly unless you're very gifted. And even then, you need time to kind of slowly allow the body and mind to kind of open up to what you're doing. And someone once said, for example, at Sogenji, and I think it holds true for anywhere, that everything that is done at Sogenji is just there for the purpose of awakening, right? So it's there to help you go deeper into your practice, however you define that. And that's the same thing at a one-day retreat. You know, everything there is just set up for one purpose, to allow you to go deeper into your practice. You know, that's the, otherwise it has no meaning, right? It's not about sitting there and looking good, or, you know, writing on your blog or something. It has to be about that. It has to be about deepening your practice. And then those retreats really have a meaning, and they become really wonderful opportunities to, you know, either ride good karma, you know, in other words, maybe things are going great and you just want to continue it, or just go through bad karma, which is sometimes it's just terrible. But that's also part of the process as well. So to kind of give yourself that opportunity, I think it's a wonderful thing. And so that's just some thoughts I've had on why we should sit. And I can't really think of anything else at this point. So, but it seems like a pretty good stopping time. So maybe if people have any questions, we can kind of do a few minutes of question and answers. I guess you still have one or two more Zazen sessions, right? Before the end?
Yeah, we will have one more Kinhin after this, and then we sit one more Zazen.
Oh yeah, and that last period's gonna be a great one. I can already tell.
I know, because you inspired everyone so much.
No, I'm kidding.
It's like, you brought what everyone knows to the surface and presented it so in such an inspiring way.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
thank you. Thank you. I mean, it's my, yeah, I mean, it's funny because I always want to say, like, you guys are very lucky to have Jiko as your, you know, and so on too. But it's like they're really, they put in their hours and their time at Sogenji, and so they can really bring so much to the practice there. So you guys are really lucky to kind of have them. And sorry, also you. I'm sorry, Sozen, and also Sozen too, when he comes. So do you guys have any questions? You know, if you don't, that's okay. I mean, you're in the middle of a retreat. You know, sometimes it's better not to kind of ruminate too much, but if you do, I'd be happy to answer any, if I can.
I have something to say, Doan. First of all, yeah, thank you. I really, can you hear me well?
I can, yes. You're so far away, I can't see you, but I can hear you perfectly.
I really appreciated your words.
Thank you.
Towards the end, you mentioned something about riding a wave of good karma or going through a wave of bad karma.
Mm-hmm.
I'm wondering, because recently I've been very inspired with the idea of going back to Sogenji maybe for a Rohatsu or in December. But the thing that's really keeping me is I feel that I will just be in physical agony all the time because of my recent surgery, and just I'm not used to sitting for long hours anymore. Would you going, if it is the case that I would go, or in general I sit and I go through this physical agony of sitting, would you consider that riding a wave of bad karma, or just any words around my consideration, my consideration?
Yeah, I mean, from just a more practical aspect, I think you know, when I first started coming back to Sogenji, you know, I was so traumatized by my time there. The first few times I came back, I only did kosashins, you know? I mean, it's a little less of a solution for you because you're so far away, right? But um, so that's the first thing, uh, like perhaps you choose a bit more less intensive, right? And I mean, kosashins are already plenty intense, right? And then you do like a sashin where you're really supported by the environment as opposed to kind of having to overcome the environment. And in that case, like May or October, like when you're kind of
Yeah.
yeah, like Rohatsu is it's a it's a different beast, and it's not necessarily, I feel like, the best kind of dropping in point in a way. So but like when you go in the May or October, like the weather's nice, and somehow that can can help a lot. But I guess more when I say with the karma is is like what like we're always, when we sit, if we're really sitting, we're always driving towards to what brought us to the cushion in the first place. And for some people, that can be because they just love it and they feel like this is what they're meant to do and this has so much meaning. And but for other people, and that includes myself, it's because, you know, they have to do it, otherwise, they're going to go crazy, or you know what I'm saying? Like that's what I'm talking about, more the bad karma, is that we have to what we face what we're brought us to the cushion. And in some cases what brought us to the cushion is, mental agony, basically. And then we just basically sit with that in a way. I mean, but so we're so that's what I kind of mean, like the bad karma, the good karma. Sometimes we come to the cushion because we're inspired, we're devoted, we're excited. It's somehow things have ripened in a way that kind of drive our practice in a positive direction. And sometimes, it's the opposite. Things have kind of fallen apart, and but that drives us to the cushion as well. And just to stay with whatever drives us to the cushion and to kind of use that and eventually burn through, I would say burn through both of them, to be honest, because I think good karma is as dangerous as bad karma. So and eventually kind of reach that place where it somehow doesn't matter anymore for either. So that's my first thing. On a practical thing, I would say choose time when the weather's nice and it's not so physically demanding. And second, um, uh, really know, if you're going there, just know what you're going there for and just stay with that and stay through that, basically.
Thank you.
I don't know if that makes sense, but
Yes, it does.
yeah.
And if anyone online wants to unmute, go ahead also. For questions from us. Or something that resonated in particular.
Yeah, I have a question. That's not really a question. I don't think it's really answerable. But when you started your talk about the incident between Basu and Nansen, I also thought back on the Obaku's words, where he said that you have to realize in a flash you can go through, how many are there? The 12 bodhisattva stages, but in the end, if you realize in a flash, the end result will be all the same. He says
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's something I've been pondering about. I'm not sure if it's answerable, but Yeah, I've been pondering about this.
Yeah, I mean, well, because Roshi will, this is not my words because I think, but Roshi will kind of say, the Buddha nature has no form, right? So it's not something that you can kind of hold up and, oh, I've created the perfect form for Buddha nature, I mean, it's and that exists because we've dropped away so much of ourselves that we basically, we just become whatever's in front of us now. Roshi will describe that a lot of times as a mirror, basically. We just mirror what is in front of us. We become mountain, it mirrors the mountain, and the mountain is gone, and then that's it. And then, or mirrors fire, mirrors water, right? But he also say that a mirror, when it mirrors fire, doesn't get hot or doesn't burn. When it mirrors water, it doesn't get wet. So in a way, it's this very mysterious thing where we're fully engaged and fully open, but at the same time, we're not moved around by what we're engaging with, and I think that's really one of the hallmarks we could say of no self, is that there really no longer is a kernel there for these experiences to kind of attach onto, and that's why, again, if you kind of view the self as a magnet, we try to go to a place when we sit, or we try to do, like where you're going to go to Sogenji or stuff, you go to a place where you take away kind of as much of the iron as possible, because otherwise you're constantly attracting all this stuff to your magnet that you can say of yourself, and that just gets heavier and heavier and heavier, right? And then so you try to be in a place where you don't have this iron, and then when your practice has matured to a point, there really is no magnet in there anymore. So even if you're surrounded by all this iron, it doesn't have the same effect, because there isn't that kind of core of self to kind of attach onto. So that's the benefit of being at Sogenji, is that they're taking away, to use this metaphor again, they've taken away all the iron, until you can kind of find a place where you can be anywhere, and that's also why continual practice is necessary, because we can find a place, we can have an experience of no self, and as I talked about before, if we don't have this practice of continual awareness, continual mind moments, what happens is we experience a place of no self, but then slowly it becomes a memory, and we start thinking again, and slowly that self reemerges, it reknits itself, it kind of and so we always want to, so the practice in some ways it's ongoing, it never ends, because there's always, one, we're trying to kind of keep the space level, and two, there's always kind of more places to let go of. How long are your periods there at the retreat?
25 minutes, 2 times. And
25 minutes? Yeah. Is that hard for you guys for that 25 minutes, or does it feel like it goes by fast?
Depends.
Depends.
Depends. Well, why, I guess to say, why does it depend? Why is it sometimes easy and sometimes harder?
I think it's like you say, if I'm able, I speak for myself,
Of course, yeah.
if I'm able to connect just with my body, with my breathing, time goes by and you don't know that these 25 minutes have passed away. And sometimes you're just all the time distracted and distracted, and then it seems like it goes very slowly, you know,
Yeah, I mean,
because you
maybe it
don't
does.
make that connection.
Yeah, yeah. Well, because yeah, we live, the time goes by. Yeah, it's because we're living in the past or the future, and it's, the thing is well, it's very interesting as our concentration deepens, we more and more become familiar with this place of, no time, basically, and as we even go kind of deeper into that, we see that actually time and space are actually themselves concepts, right? I mean, they're, and that's where, they're really linchpins, I think, of what we can determine as ourselves as kind of an individual, as a separate entity, as they say in the Diamond Sutra. Once you start seeing that there is no time, that there really is no space, then you're kind of you're really on the right track to this idea that it's, there really is no form to what we call this awareness, right? It's not like this awareness is within this, right? It's something, yeah, it's very mysterious. It's very mysterious, but it's, I think, a worthwhile practice. I really do. I mean, otherwise I don't think I would have done it for so long.
Yeah, thank you for sharing.
Oh, thank you for listening. And
Mhm.
yeah, thank you. And I guess no more questions, Chico. Do you want to
Check if there are more questions or from
okay.
the online maybe.
Yeah.
I don't have a question. I just have a remark when I sit.
Mm.
Sometimes that I think, like you said, like the inspiration to go sit on the cushion is like the bad karma, because otherwise I get insane with my head. A roller coaster. But if I sit like today, then I have periods that it's like kind of working, but also that I just completely shut down. I fall asleep. It's just
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
mechanism says, whoa.
Yeah. I mean, but that's I feel, that's quite normal, I think, at the beginning, right? I mean, I just can speak from my experience, but I had a really difficult time my first year or two at Sogenji, right? I mean, it's and so and for me it was a choice, well, do I just kind of say, nah, you know, forget it, or do I really kind of try to find the source of where all this kind of karma is coming from, basically. And in a way, just by sitting on the cushion and being there, I feel is it slowly kind of allows that, I think it slowly allows that karma to slowly soften and slowly flake off, and it doesn't. The thing is, I feel like we always assume Zazen has to be a certain way, and that's, I mean, I definitely thought so. Really, I was like, oh, it has to be like this, it has to be like this. But um, sometimes, we can be, when I talk about no self-conscious awareness, we can be fully asleep, right, on the cushion, right? We can be fully kind of consumed by thoughts, but then we come out of it. Now we're just fully focused, right? That it's not, there isn't this kind of like, mm, you know, judging or, oh, I know I'm doing good or I shouldn't have been doing that. It's just you're asleep. All right, fully asleep. That's how it goes. And then you're awake and then like, all right, I'm going to go for it. Be fully go for it. That's kind of there's this quote where, and I'm still kind of really mulling it in my mind, where so this person went to this famous teacher and he said, I'm really afraid of lightning. Like every time lightning happens, I get freaked out, you know, you know, give me something. How should I calm my mind, through Zazen, or what should I do so I don't get so freaked out? And the teacher's answer was, just be freaked out. If you try to do anything, you'll be dualistic, dualistic. So it's like, we what he meant by that, I think, and I might be wrong, is that we have a situation and then we have something out here that's like, okay, I'm going to fix that. I'm going to organize that. I'm going to do this way, do this way. And that's not wrong. But on the cushion, that's not what we want to do. We just want to fully, as much as possible, kind of just accept and be with what is happening on the cushion. And I kind of wish I had known that a little earlier, because for many years I really tried to brute force my way through things, and reality doesn't like that very so yeah, so it's like you're asleep, great, fully be asleep, and then when you wake up, all right, now it's time to fully be focused. And it's just, all this other commentary, memories or stuff, that's what's not necessary, right? That's kind of my take on it, and then eventually, as that karma softens, those shutting down you mentioned will come less and less, right? But it's something that you can't really force yourself through, right? Because in a way, and I was really thinking of that today, we have to respect what brought us to the cushion, whether it's good or bad. And we have to really understand that and kind of really see that clearly. What is it that brought us to the cushion? Why are we sitting? Why are we sitting? And try to really experience that and not make up ideas in our head, oh, it's because of this or this, but really try to dig down and find the answer to that question in our zazen. Why am I sitting here? What am I doing here? And really understand, this, what is it, to have bad karma? Is it me? Is it something else? These are stuff that you slowly just kind of experience yourself when you sit on the cushion. If you give yourself enough latitude and enough respect, and really at the minimum keep these concepts of good or bad, out of the equation. And I can say from my own experience that the judging does absolutely nothing, and unfortunately we're so trained to judge our experience and to put it into boxes, but we don't realize we see so little of the entire picture, that judging is really, it has no really basis in anything. So that's really, it was a real revelation for me one time in my sesshin, where, because I used to have real strong self-critiquing thoughts, and it was just suddenly in one sesshin I realized I don't have to listen to them, right? I just don't have to go there. I can feel bad, but I don't have to constantly have this. And it was, yeah. And then I saw, once you see, you kind of don't have to go down that path, really something else opens up, but again, that happened because I for me at least, I was continually willing to just constantly I wanted to know, why am I sitting? Like, what is this kind of kernel of doubt or dissatisfaction or kind of whatever darkness that, what is that? What is that? What is that? That's constantly drew me. What is it? Why am I sitting here? Why am I trying to understand this? And just for years and years and years, just walking towards that. And eventually, well, everyone has to find their own answer to that question. So I won't say anything, but um, it's a little bit like, I don't know, do you know The Wizard of Oz, the movie? Is that something that's, and it pulls back the curtain and it's like, they expect it's a scary monster and it's just this kind of like small little thing, right? I mean, it's once you really see that, there's really nothing there, but that's not something that can be told to you. That's something that you have to just continually drive towards. And then one day you will experience and see for yourself, and then it's yours, right? And no one can kind of take that away from you, in my experience. And how long are you going to Sogenji for, Martin?
1 month.
1 month for all of December?
Don't know yet. It's
Maybe I thought it's better to come like a little bit before, before the 1st of December to kind of.
Yeah. Maybe you can do the November Osashin.
yeah. If I could have any say in it, I would spend as many months as possible. But unfortunately,
Yeah. So you just have December to go, right?
I've got an employer. That's the issues. So limited.
Yeah. Well, you're diving into the deep end, for sure, but I think it's gonna be an interesting time. It's gonna be interesting.
That was a careful words.
I mean, I can't say anything more than that. I don't know. But I think it's great you're going. I think it's great you're going.
I have a feeling that we will go, the whole Belgian family. That Todd will go, that Sarah will go, that Sosen will go, and I will go.
Yeah.
And
I'll be there in Martin, I'll be there for Rohatsu. So I'll see you there.
Okay.
so thank you so much.
Chico and her dream.
Huh?
Chico and her dream.
Yeah. Everyone will make it. We'll make it to
One day.
Rohatsu. Well, thank you, everyone. And I really enjoyed kind of talking these very unnecessary words, but yeah, I'm glad we could share this time together, and I hope to one day see you all in person and to be able to sit with you in person. That's my dream.
Maybe I even know the date for that.
Oh, yeah, that might happen soon.
We keep inviting you, so don't say we wish you. We keep inviting you. You are not coming, so.
No, I am. You haven't heard the latest news.
Well, I kind of.
By the way.
Okay. All right. So
thank you.
We'll talk later. Everyone, have a great with the session. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.